Yeah, hey, what's going on? This is NEcology, doing something a little different today. As you can see, we've progressed well into fall. Fall has made its presence known. I'm out here at one of my favorite little conservation lands, and what I'm going to be doing today is helping out the Conservation Commission. We got an acquaintance of mine coming to, give us a little rundown and maybe a little extra context, or maybe just help us out here. But we're going to be tagging these guys here. This is Robinia pseudoacacia. This is the so-called black locust tree, and although they are native to the east coast of the United States, they are not necessarily native to the northeast. So much like your catalpa trees. What's another good example? So you get the locust trees, this is black locust Robinia. You've got honey locust Gladizia, and then you've got catalpa, which is in a different family. It's Bignoniaceae. Trying to think of some other examples. You get quite a few asters too. They tend to do that. They might not necessarily be native to the region, but they are native, to the east as a whole, and as such, they can cause some problems. This tree. This is a sapling of one. We're just marking the saplings. There's some nice mature ones up over here in the corner. We're going to leave those guys alone. But these guys, these small little guys, are doing some encroaching into the field here where they're not necessarily wanted or appreciated. But this is in the family Fabaceae. You get some nice spines on these guys. Compound leaves, as you would expect any fabid to have. Gotta remember Fabaceae, they're usually doing compound leaves. You ever seen a clover? Then you get the idea. In fact, there's that clover down there. Same family, same compound leaves. These guys are cool. They're spiky. They got really beautiful flowers, but they're not wanted, not necessarily right here. I've also got another, pest species that I have some concern about over here. You got Frangula alnus. You get a plant in the family Rhamnaceae, one of the buckthorns. Of course, this one is a little different from common European buckthorn. This is glossy false buckthorn is what they call this guy. And unlike its close relative and similarly, destructive cousin Rhamnus cathartica, common buckthorn, this guy's got alternate leaves, which is kind of unusual for the family. So we're gonna take a look around. We're gonna mark some trees. As you can see, this guy likes his successional habit, but you know what? So do these birches. So do the birches. They like the successional habit too. I'll show you what a nice big mature one of these looks like. Maybe we can get some fruits, but we're going to be marking, probably, I assume, they say saplings. I presume they mean the guy's about this size. So I got my marking tape. I got my target plant right there, and let's get to work here, Yeah, you see, this is why you got to keep grasslands like this open. This is some of the last food available for these nice, bumblebees here. And there's a few of them on here. And these Symphyotrichums, these can't generally, Cortifolium I've seen grown in woodlands, but of all the 30 some odd species Symphyotrichum, I think this is Symphyotrichum racemosum, but I mean, who's to say? There's like 7. Look, I'm still counting them as I'm looking back. Look how many bees you got in this thing. And they're slow. It's chilly right now. Cloudy. But look at this thing. Just lit up with flowers. Covered in bees. And if you don't keep this stuff open, eventually encroachment comes in. You can see the trees over there. Those will grow up to be big, grandiose trees. This is a really big one. We'll have to have a discussion on whether or not that one meets the sapling criteria. Some of these are getting kind of big. But you got to keep this stuff clear, because unless you're going to burn, or there's some sort of other natural disturbance, it's up to human maintenance to kind of keep this stuff open and healthy. Otherwise, you get the invasives coming in, you get forest encroachment, and you lose your ability to kind of provide nectar for these late season insects. Robinia pseudoacacia, don't get me wrong, has an impressive floral display, but that's blooming months earlier than this, when this type of stuff is really important. And we've got plenty of spring ephemerals that'll come out, but I mean, who's to say? It's the person who sent me out here on this errand is much more of a knowledgeable about insects than I am. I know next to nothing about our native insects. They actually, I'm the plant guy in that group chat, you know. How cute are these little guys, though? So you get a nice solid Dago rugosa. Still going off. Still open for business. In fact, still get some of those flowers are still in bud back there. And they'll do it as long as they can, some of these asters. As you can see, this much larger display of a Pseudoacacia canadensis. I mean, who could tell? It's well past. Probably past even collecting that seed, although, yeah, there's some good seed on this one over there. So you can see, you know, the goldenrods and the Symphyotrichum, the solid Dago and the Symphyotrichum really have their run of it this time of year. But rugosa does the, you know, inflorescence. You can see how these kind of, you know, branch and arch, and rugosa will kind of have leaves intermittently up the stem. Oh, there he goes. That leaf texture is much different than canadensis too. Very coarse and rough, whereas canadensis kind of just feels a little bit more standard issue, so to speak. But yeah, you can see what I mean, how those kind of arch. Altisma, you probably got some solid Dago altisma around here too. Just again, a little different. You get some yarrow that already perished for the season. But the asters, they'll hang on pretty late into the fall. I'll be honest, this time last year, it's a little more colored. But as you can see, they've already gone to seed. Oh, that's interesting. This wily bastard decided to have a second go at blooming for the year. At least I think that's a flower. Yeah, you got a little flower there on the false buckthorn. Got fruits too. You can see this guy took some blunt force trauma. Probably what triggered it to bloom again. That's interesting. That's why these are kind of a pain in the ass, I guess. And you can see some sort of native vining buckwheat climbed up this one. So you're not immune to propaganda, my friend. It's still, like I said, still native to the US, but unfortunately it probably, you know, its native habitat is probably a bit more, how you say, competitive to it. I mean, I've seen some pretty mature, you know, examples of this species just growing right in the middle of the woods, but they don't get that big. I think we're gonna go, I want to show you what a mature one looks like, I think. So these can get to be pretty darn big trees, but like I said, we're just going for these saplings. Amazingly, despite all the spines on these things, haven't gotten pricked too bad yet. So these guys right here, these are the adult trees, and as you can see, I mean, they get pretty big. Get that nice ropey bark at the base. Let's go take a look at that. No seed pods to show you. I think something came by and picked most of them off. You get a nice Parthenocissus, Quinquefolia climbing up, Virginia creeper. Just look at that nice furrowed bark. So again, not a bad tree, just one that you don't necessarily want to encroach on an area you're trying to maintain as a grassland or meadow. Pretty nice though. So standing here and looking at what we've done, you can see these things are just coming up gangbusters over on this side of the field. This is where they were telling me that they were worried and having an issue. Lots of nice grasses too. You can see how he gets that up at the pseudoacacia though. Just with all these spines. I like it. It hurts me. I like plants that can hurt me generally, but I'm starting to get nibbed by these. You know, my pal Judy was also here, was telling me all these little scars that we're seeing in the leaves. It's a leaf miner. I guess only hangs out of these, and it's a shame to get rid of them because it's a cool insect, but ultimately, you know, plants carrying insects from elsewhere, probably not an issue with this specific species, but you know, you bring something over from, say, Europe, you can get issues with a, you know, woolly adelgid is an example of an insect that was brought over on another species of plant that's attacking, you know, native species. Emerald ash borer is another one. So you generally do want to be mindful of what you're bringing over when you bring over non-native species, although in the case of this little leaf miner, I don't believe he's causing any issues specifically. I'm not the one to talk to about that though. I tell you, man, two families that just really don't mind the cold. It's Asteraceae, lovely Rudbeckia hirta here. Black-eyed Susan, native to pretty much all of North America. You can see where it gets that epithet. Entire thing's covered in strigose hairs. Little hairy, fuzzy, lobed leaves. Actually, there's a few Rudbeckias. This is hirta. You get Rudbeckia triloba too, which pretty much looks the same, but it's got lobed leaves to it. And then a non-native, but still pretty cool. Remember the family Caryophyllaceae, if I'm not mistaken. This would be Silene vulgaris. We have a native Silene. that pretty much only lives up on the mountain peaks up there in the white Silene-acalis, I should say. The bladder campion, its common name is, which you can see, got that little bladder behind the inflorescence. So we're continuing our mission of flagging black locust trees, and I come across a beautiful goldenrod that's still in full bloom, covered in these little beetles, and my friend here has told me that these are what are making the leaf scars. No. They're not making the leaf scars?
Nope.
What are these doing?
These are just locust borer beetles.
Locust borer beetles?
Yes.
Oh, so are they going into the bark then?
Don't know that part.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
You may have to delete the video.
Oh, it's okay. We're just, this isn't professional quality. We're looking at a couple of, some cool insects and some cool plants. I'm not terribly knowledgeable, but I always say that. I'm not terribly knowledgeable about insects, but I thought it totally convinced me that it was a wasp when I came up to it, which I think is what it wants, but they're chock full of it, sharing it with the bee, and appear to be taking a nice nap.
More.
Oh, there's a whole bunch down in there, huh?
Yeah.
So we'll leave them alone. Do you think I
think they're hiding from the rain.
I see.
There's a bunch, and then there's a hornet coming up.
Oh.
Down here.
Oh yeah, I see them.
They're all sheltering from the bad weather.
Oh yeah. And I feel bad. The hornets always get such a bad rap, but I can tell you I've never once been stung by anything other than your standard picnic yellow jacket. Never been stung by a cool wasp or hornet or bee out when I'm in the wild. Yeah. Oh, they're starting to move around now. Yeah, he totally tricked me though. So Judy was telling me about these cool little guys. They're called hoppers. And they almost have like a little rhino horn on their head. Just sucking sap out the bark. Look at this little guy. I say it all the time, I don't know much about bugs, but I really do, enjoy learning about just about anything. You can see he's shy. Isn't that cute? He keeps moving over to the other side. Let's see. Can we get one more picture? We're just taking a couple pictures. Unfortunately, he's hanging out on a tree. I'd get a tag, but what a cute little guy. Yeah, see, he doesn't like me. She told me they watch your leg movement. That's funny. So we're going to look at a few other things. As you can see, I'm still hard at work flagging the numerous honey locusts I got here. I want to take a break to show you this really nice Symphyotrichum right here. I believe this is Symphyotrichum aracoides, as always. You gotta take this genus with a grain of salt, alright? Every species has another species that almost basically looks exactly the same. And even, usually asters, your giveaway, is gonna come. Let me really zoom in for you there. How zoomed in can I get? This is technically the max zoom I have. Your giveaway is generally going to come when you actually look at those filaries there. But sometimes the features are just too small, or there's overlap, and who knows. I haven't even thought of hybridization. You can see those anther tubes sticking out. But, I mean, just back up from the thing. Lovely plant. And for most of the year, most people think it probably just looks like some random weed. And yet here we are, a couple days away from the beginning of October, in fall. And these things are still going strong. Here's a different species of Symphyotrichum. This one could be, calico aster, or what's the other one there? Symphyotrichum racemosum, the small white aster. But who knows? Lots of species of Symphyotrichum, lots of species of solidago. I think Symphyotrichum's a bit harder to grasp than solidago, but this guy's doing great. Smells delightful too. Where was that open? Yeah, it almost smells kind of like honey like. Very pleasant smell. So there's a smaller one right there. I'll show you Symphyotrichum novabelgii. That one I know pretty much for a fact, I think. I'll get some good pictures of that. Got a few more trees to flag. Not a bad way to spend a day though, huh? Okay, so case in point, you got Symphyotrichum novabelgii here. And this is a similar looking species, because again, every single Symphyotrichum seems to have at least one other species that it very closely resembles. This is Symphyotrichum novabelgii. This is the New York aster, which I think I've brought up a couple times before. but you get in there. And what it closely resembles is another Symphyotrichum patens. But this guy, if we feel around on this little, these phylaries here, no glands, not sticky, not smelly. And we'll look at the leaf bases. There, you can see they're sessile, almost clasp, I guess kind of clasping, that's okay though. And no little heart bases though. So Symphyotrichum patens looks pretty much the same, can occupy a similar habitat, and you know, the flowers will look more or less the same, including the little calyx there, the little involucre, the phylaries, but the phylaries would be sticky and glandular, and those leaves would always be clasping, not just sessile. I'm trying to see, where's one on here that's just merely sessile, just kind of attached. You can see right in there, not clasping, but sessile. There's no petiole, but that does not have a heart-shaped base like a Symphyotrichum patens. But you see how this gets maddening. See, look, there's another different species of Symphyotrichum. You know, you're walking by this, it all might look the same to you, but you got to pay attention to the details. All right, I think we're just about close to getting ready to wrap up here. Got some nice Dolingeria umbellata behind us, a little past prime, and I talked about that plant plenty last year, so we'll do a little bit more focus on the Symphyotrichums. Asters, man, the asters love the fall, and there's nothing you can do about it. They're not going to stop. And I could have actually shown you this plant at any point around the, the entire field here, because in fact there's numerous of them, but none were as impressive as this bunch. You thought you were getting away from Spiranthes, huh? No, sir. I believe this is just Spiranthes cernua, though of course we talked about that whole species complex. An orchid blooming, and this will, based on the ones I saw, these will still be going off next week. An orchid that blooms in October. Autumn coral root, which we also talked about this year, Corallariza odontoriza, also blooms very, very late. Get a whiff of this. Let's see if these guys are still fragrant. Yeah, they're done. But, you know, generally speaking, Spiranthes are a pretty fragrant, you know, genus of orchids. They actually offer pollen too. You can see all these are the finished fruits. They mature from the base up. How about that? Cool plant. Are you sick of it yet though? Not me. Even though the even though the differences are minute. That's kind of what makes it fun, isn't it? Ow, I'm getting poked by a young juniper. Anyway, we'll get close to wrapping this up. Just, you know, well on the topic of orchids, here are the fruits of Platanthera lacera. Another one that I got to see. I had a great year this year. So those will be maturing. Hopefully we'll spread some seed around. Orchid seeds are tiny. You get hundreds of thousands of seeds inside each one of those little pods there. So, worth noting. I meant to show Judy this before we were on our way out. Looks like they kind of laid down for the most part. There were a bunch of these too. This is an impressive orchid. I'll put a little picture up of what it looked like. One of my new favorites, Platanthera lacera. One of the fringed orchids, bog orchids. They go by a whole bunch of different names. Oh, here's a big oh, it looks like they have it marked. Here's a big bastard right here. God damn. Thing's almost 2.5 feet tall. You can still see some of the leaves down there too. There's some thistle. We were talking about, apparently that's becoming a problem here too. Actually, I wonder if they have this marked for the orchid or for the thistle. Hopefully they don't mess with this guy here though. It's a nice one. They're orchids. You can hunt for them in the fall and winter too. Those seed pods in the stalks are usually quite persistent. They dry out into a little woody capsule. Not all species, but definitely some of the Platanthera, definitely Cypripedium McCall does that. And yeah, whatever, what have you. Hey, looks like a bee, doesn't he? but he's not. It's a hoverfly. You know, we were talking all about these cool guys. Look how fast he's going. He doesn't have time for my nonsense. Yeah, go hang out on the Symphyotrichum, my friend. And just wanna, I'll close it out here. There's actually, I'll show you one other thing, but I might even just put that. You know what? I'll put the little orchid thing in front of this. But you know, just one thing to take away from this. I'm not a professional botanist. My friend Judy, who was here too, is not a professional entomologist. We merely have studied, you know, picked up books, studied, talked to people, and most importantly, actually come out and seen this stuff, take pictures, document what you observe, ask questions. Anybody can do this, and we need more people doing this because this entire conservation land here is wholly dependent on people doing it essentially for free. Yeah, there's some town money involved, but you know, you need to come out and invest time into places like this, otherwise they go away. Don't be intimidated. Ask questions. How can you help? You know, they actually asked me if I would be willing to come out and do a little assistance, because they're mostly, you know, mostly bug people, and I want to be more of a bug person, but I'm a plant guy, and they wanted my opinion on a couple things. I said, listen, like, then, you know, in my opinion, yada yada yada. Some stuff's out of my depth and not comfortable giving an opinion on. As far as, you know, clearing away the black locust, I mean, that's gonna, I think, benefit the meadow here, because you'll be farming a savanna of juniper and black locust, which is kind of what Cape Cod looks like in some spots. Although I think that they're getting mostly honey locust, which is a different genus, same closely related, but different genus, also goes by the common name locust. But that's neither here nor there. You know, get out to your local lands if you're fortunate enough to have them. Not all regions of the world are fortunate enough to have them. And ask questions, you know, express concerns. If you see, you know, something that looks out of place, say something, you know. You know, if a bunch of tree saplings all coming up in mass in one location is evidence that something wacky's going on. You see one or two, you know, you might not be suspicious. Like, I mean, I'm doing my whole thing. And what is not unusual to see in an area like this is maybe a juniper sapling, a black cherry sapling, a prunus sapling. But I think for every juniper and prunus sapling I saw, there was about 50 of those black locust saplings. And you know, we know that that's not technically native to the region. It has a little bit of a competitive edge, and you know, sometimes you just got to control for it. So I think on that note, I'm going to leave you. Just, you know, it's all about management. You know, you have to be mindful. Just because an area is set aside, it's going under the ground, for, you know, a nature preserve or conservation land, a lot of times these places, unfortunately, they still need to be managed, because especially out here in the east, there are so many invasive species, and you know, eventually everything, you know, kind of goes back to forest. And if you're not going to burn, or you're not going to allow things to kind of burn on a natural progression, if they do, you're going to have to go in and mechanically remove some of the pest species that you don't want. And that's all we're doing today. We're just flagging them. They're going to come by, they're going to cut them. And fortunately, you know, black locust is not as aggressive as, you know, I think I showed you that Frangula alnus, that buckthorn. That's, you know, much more complex of a species to remove. So anyway, I think on that note, was a nice Joe Pyeweed right there. That's cool. Anyway, I think on that note, I'm going to put a hard stop on it. I am going to go over and film the orchids, but you'll see that before.